If you've been scrolling through endless wine fridge listings, toggling between compact countertop and full-size built-in and still feel stuck, you're not alone. You've probably weighed price tags, read a handful of reviews that all sound the same, and wondered whether any of these units will actually keep your bottles at the right temperature without hogging half the kitchen. This review is meant to cut through the noise and help you decide if a 187 bottle model is worth the space and the spend. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the everyday scenario most of us face. You have a small home bar, maybe a side kitchen, and you're trying to store a growing collection of reds, whites, and a few sparkling bottles for occasional entertaining. You don't want a clunky appliance that rattles every time the compressor kicks on, and you certainly don't want to gamble on a thermoelectric unit that struggles when the room temperature spikes in summer. The EORIS 187 bottle wine cooler promises a quiet, high-efficiency compressor, a double-layer vacuum glass door that blocks UV, and a temperature range you can dial in a single degree between 41 and 64 F. Those sound like the exact things you'd want, but the question is how they translate into daily life. Who should consider this cooler? If you're a serious hobbyist who already has a cellar-sized rack and is looking to bring a slice of that into the kitchen, the capacity alone is a major draw. 187 bottles is enough to hold a small collection of reds, a few whites, and still leave room for a few special vintages. The unit's dimensions are designed to fit a typical 24-inch cabinet opening, so it can sit as a freestanding piece in a dining room or be built into a wall niche if you prefer a seamless look. The temperature control is precise. You can set it at 55 F for Pinot Noir, drop it to 48 F for a crisp Sauvignon Blanc, and the compressor will hold that setting within a single degree tolerance. That level of granularity matters if you like to keep different varietals at their optimal serving temperature without juggling multiple fridges. On the flip side, this isn't the right pick for someone who only drinks a bottle or two a month and has a spare pantry shelf. The unit's price point is higher than the entry-level thermoelectric models you see on budget sites, and you'll be paying for the larger storage space you may not fully use. If you're renting and can't commit to a permanent built-in installation, the freestanding option works, but you'll need a reliable power outlet nearby and a spot that can accommodate its footprint. Also, while the compressor is advertised as quiet, it still produces a low hum that you'll hear if your fridge sits right next to a living room TV or an open-plan kitchen. It's not a roar, but it's something to keep in mind if you're ultra-sensitive to background noise. Let's dig into the practical strengths you'll notice once the unit is in place. The double-layer vacuum glass door is more than a glossy selling point. It actually blocks a significant amount of UV radiation that can degrade wine over time. I've seen cheaper units with single-pane glass that let a faint light seep in, and over months that can subtly affect the wine's aging process. With this cooler, the door feels solid, and the vacuum seal helps maintain a stable internal temperature even when the ambient room temperature swings from a chilly morning to a warm afternoon. The fast cooling compressor also means you can load a full rack of room temperature bottles after a dinner party, and the unit will bring them down to serving temperature within a few hours instead of an entire day. Another everyday benefit is the internal layout. The shelves are adjustable, so you can accommodate tall bottles like champagne or short, wide bottles like some dessert wines. The spacing is generous enough that you can easily slide a bottle out without knocking the next one over, which is something I've struggled with on tighter models where you end up pulling the whole rack. Because the temperature range tops out at 64 F, you can store fortified wines or even a few craft beers without worrying about them getting too warm. Now for the practical weaknesses. The biggest trade-off comes from the compressor system itself. While it's more powerful than thermoelectric cooling, it also draws a bit more electricity. If you're watching your utility bill closely, you'll notice a modest increase compared to a passive cooler that simply uses a small fan. The unit also runs a simple digital display for temperature, which is easy to use but doesn't give you any advanced diagnostics. If the compressor were to fail, you'd be left with a basic temperature readout and no way to troubleshoot beyond unplugging and resetting. That said, the company does offer a 12-month dedicated service plan, so you're not completely on your own if something goes wrong in the first year. Another consideration is the quiet claim. In real-world tests, the compressor hums at